What's up, everybody? Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of exciting news to go over here this week. Lots of big stories here about companies changing their EV plans and even the government changing their EV plan. But first, I want to mention I'll be doing my usual weekly live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday night here. So join if you can. It's always a fun time hanging out and talking cars with all of you. But anyway, getting into that news here this week. A great week for those who want to enjoy gas-powered vehicles as long as possible. New gas-powered vehicles specifically, of course. But anyway, so the biggest news here this week, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but Reuters is reporting here that the EPA will be revising their proposed requirements for new vehicle emissions in the coming years. So originally the EPA's plans here and their goals, their requirements were for about 60% of new vehicles to be electric by 2030 and 67% by 2032 due to stricter emissions requirements for the remaining gas-powered vehicles. The fleet averages were just so high that in order to offset that, they would have needed to have that percentage of EVs. And so supposedly there's going to be some revisions here, and that apparently the White House has been very open and receptive to the arguments that many car companies and many groups have been proposing. And so supposedly when the revisions come out next month, the percentage required by 2030 will be something less than 60%, although we don't know exactly what percentage it'll be just yet. If the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, who've been pushing back against the rules, which is an ironic name for someone that doesn't like the progress of the EVs. But anyway, if they get their way, then the percentage would fall somewhere between 40 to 50% of EVs by 2030. So, we'll see where it lands. It could be even less than that, but I think, it would make sense to maybe meet in the middle. If, the government wants 60, they're saying 40, they compromise on 50 or something. We'll see. But, it's still definitely headed in the direction of an electric future. We're still having half of all new vehicle sales by 2030 being electric. So, this isn't like we're throwing out, EV goals or anything like that. It's just slowing them down a little bit, which a lot of the people that are, proposing these slowdowns are saying, just give consumers time to, get used to the charging infrastructure and have the charging infrastructure get better, have battery tech, have a few more years to evolve, even though that's also rapidly evolving, and so it's just, they want a little more time there for that. And, a lot of people thought that the current proposals were a little unrealistic, so this will hopefully, again, slow things down a little bit, but still, head in that direction. And so according to the New York Times, there also will still be a ramp up from 2030 to 2032. We'll see, where that ramp up, how much of a ramp up that is at, that point here. But, so anyway, again, doesn't change things wildly, but does, buy a little more time, make things a little more flexible there. So anyway, very interesting to hear that. Even before this news broke, though, about the government's changes here, there's been, I've been reporting for many weeks now about numerous car companies rolling back their EV plans and pumping the brakes on all this stuff as the demand has cooled off a little bit. And so GM, just recently announced, I talked about recently about how they're going to be rolling out some plug-in hybrids after previously, kind of tossing out that idea a few years back. Now they are, again, interested in plug-in hybrids, and they're going to get them out really soon. Apparently, they're going to use existing tech from other plug-in hybrids available in other parts of the world, and we'll probably have like a plug-in hybrid Equinox pretty quickly and a few other things like that. Apparently, according to a new report by AutoWeek here, their sources claim that plug-in hybrid versions of the Silverado and Sierra are headed to market in a hurry as well. And apparently, they have like a crash team that's like rapidly trying to like toss this together, which doesn't sound like a great idea as far as, a well-developed product. But, they've been doing hybrids. They had hybrid Tahoes and stuff back in like 2008. So this isn't something that they're, foreigners to. They understand how this stuff works, and so hopefully their engineers can get it right even in a hurry. But, whether, as far as the hybrids goes, whether these plug-in hybrids are going to be like, a copy of the Ram Charger with being basically an electric vehicle with a gas engine, or if they will just be the more traditional type of having a smaller little battery pack, and then, just having the gas engine to back it up after that. But anyway, There's a few other things that are a little bit more of a bummer about this, though, because apparently, according to the report here, this internal shakeup in the product plans means that the cool-sounding little two-door truck with a low roof that sounded like a potential E-Camino, that's my own idea of coming up with, instead of El Camino, call it the E-Camino, I think would have been great. Automotive News got a glimpse at that about a year ago or so, and that apparently has been canceled now. That wasn't a greenlit thing just yet, but it was something that GM had done a full life-size mock-up of trying to do like a Maverick competitor but electric and two-door, and I was like, yes, a two-door little truck sounds awesome. And then apparently that's been shelved as a result. They also have decided to cancel supposedly the electric van that would have been based on the Bright Drop cargo stuff, but they were going to finally replace the Chevy Express, which is ancient, with that, but that seems like that's now been put on in the cancellation pile as well. And to me, canceling this stuff seems like an overreaction, because again, like I just said, we're buying more time, but we're still saying half of everything in 2030 is going to be an electric car. So, just throwing out all your, future EV plans, or some of your future EV plans as a result, just seems like a strange move, honestly, especially with how they're so worried about, the Chinese BYD company coming in and gaining a foothold. Well, you're giving up all of your competing vehicles by throwing them on the shelf. Anyway, so apparently that's something that's happened. Also, the cancellations don't stop at GM, because according to that AutoWeek report, they're saying that Ford's response to slowing EV sales growth, which is still growing, by the way. Every month of 2023, EV sales were higher than they were that month in 2022. So EV sales are still growing. It's 8% of the market share currently, and it still is increasing. As much as all the gloom and doom out there says, oh, no one wants an EV anymore, they're still selling a bunch of them. They're just finally having to be competitive with pricing and just not assuming that everyone's going to pay markups and signing up for massive reservation lists for every brand new EV that drops. That's obviously not going to be the case from now on. They're going to have to actually market them and sell them and be competitive like they used to have to be with every other car out there. And so, that's... It just kind of, there's been a lot of that out there. Like, no one wants EVs anymore. That's not true. It's just they finally have to discount them and price them right. But anyway, so... As far as the Ford delays here and the things that they're getting rid of, so apparently, according to AutoWeek here, the electric versions of the Maverick and the Bronco haven't been canceled, but they have been delayed, as well as an electric Ranger type thing. All of those are now not coming until at least the early 30s, they said. So... it's going to be interesting to see, but I think, it sounds like prime time for BYD to be like, okay, everyone's going to just give up on EVs here because of a temporary slowdown in growth, not the end of growth, but a slowdown in growth. And everyone's going to just, all right, let's just give up on EVs. And so, BYD and other companies, VinFast going to come in with their cool little VF3. All these other companies, they can take over the market if, all the large OEMs want to just throw up their hands in the air and give up and run away at the slightest, bit of struggle. Then I think, all these other companies will capitalize, and we will see. But I just talked about that last week. BYD looks like they're going to be possibly setting up a factory in Mexico, and will probably take the U.S. by storm with really affordable EVs if the American companies can't get their act together soon here. Speaking of BYD, though, Ford and GM are both nervous about them, as is Tesla, but not nervous enough to keep products around, apparently. But anyway, at the Wolf Research Conference this past week, Ford and GM CEOs both said they were open to collaborating to reduce costs to help them be more competitive against the potential wave of Chinese EVs. And GM CEO said, if there's ways that we can partner with others, especially on technologies that are not consumer facing, and be more efficient with R&D as well as capital, we're all in. So, sounds like they're getting a little more desperate there, but I guess they just want to maximize the stuff that they currently have and just sell Mach-E's and Lightnings and, Blazers for the next 5 or 6 years or something. I don't know. But at least if they're talking about these arch rivals, they didn't mention each other, but if they're talking about, hey, we're both thinking maybe we should collaborate with people, that's huge, because I feel like those Ford and GM would not ever collaborate on basically anything in a normal world. So definitely it seems like they're getting desperate and the heat is getting turned up here. But again, it just seems strange that they're canceling a lot of their EV stuff here coming down the road. But anyway, the American companies aren't the only ones here. Mercedes this week is also pumping the brakes on their EVs, rolling back their previous plans to be fully electric by 2030. Instead, they really went a far step back. They're now saying that they're only expecting 50% of their sales to be electrified by 2030. So not even going from like 100% to 50% EVs, but like 50% of electrified, which I think electrified qualifies from anything from a mild hybrid 48 volt system to just to run, the active suspensions. Basically means, I don't even know why they're saying 50%. You could have 100% of your stuff be electrified, because you're talking about, the weak 48 volt stuff. If they mean true hybrids and plug-in hybrids, that's a little bit, more of an advanced goal there. But even still, that is like a real underhanded softball pitch there to be like, oh yeah, we'll get 50% of everything be electrified by 2030. So Mercedes really seems like they're giving up pretty hard on the EVs as well, which, they struggled more than a lot of other companies with some of their EVs, but, it's just one of those things. We're in first gen tech, you have to give this stuff time to develop and get better. And it seems like a lot of companies just don't have the heart to stay in it here as much as we were all expecting, I guess. But anyway, their CEO also told investors that they will update their combustion vehicles, of course, because they got to have something to sell if you're going to bail on all the electric stuff. And they said that it almost is like we will have a new lineup in 2027 that will take us well into the 2030s, meaning that Mercedes going all EV by even 2035 probably isn't likely. If they're saying that these gas engines are going to take them well into the 2030s, I guess 2035 is possible. But it sounds like, at least right now, Mercedes is not having any kind of timeline as far as when they want to go fully electric. So, again, huge changes. And I have to say, I've been saying this stuff for years. Everyone was worried about, everything's going to be fully electric tomorrow and it's the end of the world. And I'm like, nope, all this crap's going to get pushed back, thrown out, whatever. And we're seeing it unfold. I swear, it hasn't even been a year or two. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, oh no, we're not having fast enough EV sales. So let's just give up on the whole idea. Everyone's forgetting that there's 100,000 fast chargers coming, that there's, all this other advancements. We have 600-mile batteries that are already in development and already, working. There's been tests that have, been out there. It's just, to me, this is just like a huge shock this week that everyone is like, yeah, let's all bail on EVs, and like a universal just like stomp off. It was just kind of funny. And the last company throwing out all their ambitious goals here is Genesis. They appear to be rolling back their plans, although this one hasn't been confirmed yet. But according to the Korean Economic Daily and their anonymous sources, Genesis is reportedly planning their first ever hybrids to launch in 2025, which is a switch from their past announcements where they said that they wouldn't reveal anything other than electric vehicles from 2025 on. So every new debut from 2025 on was going to be electric. Now they're saying, hey, we're going to have new hybrids in 2025, which means obviously the idea of, only EV debuts from 2025 and on is out the window. And they had previously said, I think they wanted to be all electric by 2030 as well. But I'm sure just like Mercedes, Genesis can read the room and they see that, oh, everyone's catching the train to backwards. Let's all hop on board. And so they're all going to, stick to, the safe approach here. And so that seems like that's what they're going to do. Now, as far as this report here, the report claims the hybrids will use a 2.5-liter four-cylinder, but that Hyundai has not determined whether to develop plug-in hybrid models under the Genesis brand, meaning they'll be probably just regular hybrids instead. So which models they'll be is also a mystery still, but it makes the most sense to probably go after the highest volume stuff. I think the report was saying the G80 and the GV70, and here in the States I'd say, GV70 and just GV80, don't even bother with the G80 since it doesn't sell very well. Just go for the SUVs, and that could be the best way to kind of, again, boost that CAFE average with the hybrids if that's what they want to do. And so anyway, but interesting to hear that. Moving on from the EV rollbacks, but sticking with the hybrid theme though, Porsche has rolled out 2 more variants of the new Panamera this week. So last fall, the rollout started with the base V6 versions and the Turbo E Hybrid. This week they debuted the Panamera 4E Hybrid and the 4SE Hybrid. And unlike the Turbo E Hybrid that uses a V8, these use the 2.9-liter twin-turbo V6 from the regular Panamera and add an electric motor inside the PDK's transmission housing to provide an extra 115 horsepower and 111 pound-feet of torque for totals of 463 453 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque for the 4E hybrid, along with a 3.9 seconds 0 to 60. The 4S E-hybrid just basically bumps the output from both the gas engine and the E-motor for totals of 536 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque and a 3.5 seconds 0 to 60. They both run a bigger 21.8 kilowatt-hour usable battery that can recharge in 2.5 hours, but no range was provided for these yet. But the last one with a smaller battery did 19 miles, so it's safe to assume it's going to be somewhere in the 20-somethings for the range here, possibly. And so anyway, prices are going to be starting at $117,495 for the 4E hybrid and $128,795 for the 4S E hybrid. And ordering is open now, and deliveries will start in the fall. Volkswagen has also revealed the ID.7 Tourer this week, which is the wagon version of the ID.7 that sadly appears like it's not going to be coming to the US. There's no official word on that yet, but just pretty unlikely. I'd love to be wrong, and maybe they'll surprise us. But anyway, it's not a huge disappointment if we don't get it, since the regular ID.7 already has a really good cargo space there with its liftback design already, which is pretty cool. But aside from the extra cargo space, it's the same as the regular ID.7 for this Tourer version, with the same powertrains presumed to be carrying over, of course, same interior, all that. For those in Europe that are interested, they'll begin arriving at dealers this quarter, so coming really fast, but there's no pricing for those yet. I believe the ID.7, for anyone who's curious, should be arriving here in the States sometime this summer, I believe, and so stay tuned for that. And for the last news story here this week, Volvo's UK division has revealed that the electric versions of the XC40 and the C40, which were previously called the XC40 Recharge and C40 Recharge, those will now be thankfully simplified with their names to just EX40 and EC40, with the XC name sticking around just for those gas-powered versions. And then, the EX thing slots in nicely with the EX30 that's beneath it, and the EX90, and of course the rest of the lineup will get filled up eventually as well. And so we'll have to wait for a US announcement, but I think for the States, most likely 2025 model year, I'm assuming, is when they'll switch that over. But I'm honestly impressed that the XC40 is sticking around this long, because that's getting to be a pretty dated vehicle at this point. The whole Volvo lineup, really, as far as the XCs, they're all pretty old and ancient, but I was expecting to see a new XC40, and the name change could have been a good way to bring in a new model, but instead they're just going to slap the new badges on the old thing, and at least it makes it easier to understand, from a consumer standpoint with the new name. But I'm interested to see when we're going to actually get a new EX40 at some point. But anyway, lastly, I want to thank all of you that are members of the Maran Motoring Club. So we did have one new member was able to join, and many others were able to rejoin thanks to the very generous gifting that was done during the live stream by Kyle and Carlos Rojas. So thank you both so much for your very generous gifts. I'm sure all those were able to rejoin. Really appreciate it. And I want to give a big welcome to the new member that was able to join as well. So big welcome to Armchair Racer. I hope you're enjoying the perks so far, and hope you'll continue sticking around here after that trial period is over. And for anyone else that would like to join, become a member, and get all those membership perks, like that priority answering on the live stream and all the other fun behind-the-scenes stuff that you get as a member, there's always join buttons here on the video page, on the channel page, and also a link in the description. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on all this crazy news in the comments below. Please also leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.